No one in Rome believed the message at first because it sounded impossible. An enemy army was coming from the north, not by sea, not by road, but over the Alps, a wall of ice and stone that Rome itself considered uncrossable. Merchants whispered it in markets. Messengers repeated it in panic. A Carthaginian general named Hannibal was marching toward Italy with elephants as autumn turned cold. The rumors grew darker. Survivors spoke of soldiers emerging from the mountains half-frozen, scarred by landslides, ambushes, and hunger, yet still moving forward with terrifying discipline. What should have killed them had only hardened them. Rome had faced enemies before, but never one who defied nature itself. And as the Senate debated whether this threat was real or exaggerated, one truth slowly sank in. This was no ordinary commander. To understand why Rome would soon tremble, we must first meet the man who swore to destroy it. Hannibal Barca did not grow up dreaming of power. He was raised on hatred. As a boy in Carthage, he stood before his father, the great general Hamilcar Barca, and swore a sacred oath to be an enemy of Rome for as long as he lived. It was not politics that drove him, but memory. Lost wars, stolen lands, and a humiliation Carthage never forgot to be why his mid-20s. Hannibal had already proven himself in battle, commanding troops in Spain with a calm, almost unsettling confidence. He learned how different men fought, how fear spread, how terrain could become a weapon. While Roman generals relied on tradition and numbers, Hannibal relied on adaptation and surprise. Rome saw him as just another foreign commander. They would soon learn he was something far more dangerous, a mind that studied them as carefully as they studied their enemies. And that mind was about to attempt the impossible. Section 3. The impossible March winter closed in as Hannibal turned his army toward the Alps, a decision so reckless that even his own officers questioned it. Towering peaks blocked the sky, paths vanished under snow, and enemy tribes struck from the cliffs as rocks and spears rained down on the column below. Men slipped, animals screamed, and entire supply lines disappeared into the ravines. Progress was slow and brutal. Food ran out, frostbite spread, and landslides crushed soldiers without warning. Yet Hannibal pressed on, rallying what remained of his forces at each halt, refusing to retreat. When the army finally descended into Italy, it was smaller, scarred, and unstoppable. What Rome dismissed as madness had become reality. And now, Hannibal was no longer a rumor in the mountains. He was an enemy on Italian soil. The fields near the small village of Cannae baked under the summer sun as Rome assembled one of the largest armies it had ever sent into battle. Confident in their numbers, the Roman legions advanced, determined to crush Hannibal in a single, decisive blow. From the outside, it looked like an overwhelming force, exactly what Rome trusted most. Hannibal let them come. As the Roman center pushed forward, his line slowly bent, drawing them deeper and deeper into a trap they could not see. Then, in a moment of terrifying precision, Carthaginian cavalry slammed into the Roman flanks and closed from behind. Surrounded, packed tight, unable to maneuver, the Roman army collapsed into chaos. By nightfall, tens of thousands lay dead. It was not just a defeat, it was a slaughter that shattered Rome's confidence. And as the news raced south, fear reached the gates of the Eternal City itself. When the survivors staggered back to Rome, they carried no banners of victory, only terror. The names of the dead filled the streets as families waited in silence, and for the first time in generations, Rome prepared not to conquer, but to endure. Temples overflowed with prayers, the Senate declared days of mourning, and young boys and old men were rushed into service to fill the shattered ranks. Hannibal was now close enough to strike. His scouts roamed Italy freely, his victories echoing louder than any war horn, and yet Rome still stood. Every night, citizens listened for footsteps that never came, asking the same question in fear and disbelief. Why hasn't he attacked? Because Hannibal's war was far from over, and the choice he would make next would change history forever. After Cannae, the road to Rome lay open, but Hannibal stopped. His army was victorious, yet exhausted, far from home, and cut off from the reinforcements he needed to besiege a city as vast and fortified as Rome. Instead of risking everything on a single strike, he chose patience, hoping Rome's allies would abandon it and cause the Republic to collapse from within. Rome did the opposite. Refusing direct battle, it adopted a new strategy, shadowing Hannibal, cutting supplies, and avoiding the kind of fight that had nearly destroyed it. Slowly, painfully, the balance shifted. The war dragged on, not with one decisive blow, but through endurance. Hannibal had broken Rome's armies, but now Rome was learning how to survive him. Hannibal never marched his army through Rome's gates, but he did something just as powerful. He changed Rome forever. The Republic rewrote its military doctrine, trained commanders to think beyond tradition, and built an empire shaped by the lessons of fear he taught them. Even centuries later, Roman mothers would quiet their children with the same warning: Hannibal is at the gates. Military schools still study his tactics, not because he won the war, but because he nearly ended Rome when no one else could. He proved that intelligence could defeat numbers, and that a single mind, driven by purpose, could shake the greatest power of its age. Rome survived, but it never forgot the man who came closer than anyone else to destroying it. For one terrifying moment in history, the Eternal City trembled, not from earthquakes or disease, but from the sheer will of a single man. Hannibal's march across the Alps, his brilliant strategies, and his near conquest remind us that even the mightiest empires can falter when genius and determination collide. History remembers Rome as eternal, but for those who study the past, one question lingers: what if Hannibal had pressed just one step further?